John,
Yes.
tell them I'm right. Well, you guys are. I hate all of you.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Track Packers podcast for episode 18 of season 2. Can you believe we're almost halfway through the racing season, already on episode 18? We hope everyone is enjoying leading up into the 4th of July weekend. Unfortunately, not a lot of racing happened, but we're here to cover what little racing we did have with the full crew, Miss Becca, along with John, myself, Mason, and Jessup Collinsworth, Pelkey. And so we want to thank, as always, our presenting sponsor in 2023, Hitch Harness, and Mr. Tyler Hall, out of Fertile, Minnesota. If you haven't heard of Hitch Harness, it's a very innovative product developed by Tyler, focusing on two main aspects. First is safety, so you have safe receiver hitch storage in the back of the truck, and also efficiency, so you can easily access it and maximize your time going from one project to the next. So head over to hitchharness.com. They have all sorts of products to choose from, multiple colors and styles. They have chassis dollies available for the racers, some apparel you can get. If you go like their Facebook page as well, they have several promotions that take place throughout the year. And so hit up the website, hit up the Facebook page. Thank you so much, Tyler, for supporting us on the podcast this season. So as you can see, the lineup is almost reversed as it was last week because we had a little bit of an incident at the beginning of last episode. And so Mr. Jessup is relegated to the back of the field. As a common courtesy, I am relegating myself to the back as well because I was part of it. And so Miss Becca is on the pole alongside John Breckle. So Becca, how are you doing this week?
Good. I just can't believe that it's almost the 4th of July, which is a weird halfway point. It's not a weird halfway point, but in my brain, it's like the halfway point of summer. And I can't believe summer is almost gone. And that means it's almost invitational season. I don't even want to say that just because I feel it's just crazy how fast the summer has been flying by. So crazy. Yeah, it's almost the 4th of July, and there's gonna be some big 4th of July specials coming up.
Absolutely. I was kind of thinking about that on my run today. I'm like, gosh, it's almost July. I don't even want to think about like the downhill slide into the like invitational and off season already, but that's how quick the racing season goes.
Yeah.
Mr. John Breckle, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been a busy week. As you guys can tell, I am off site this week. I am working out in Montana this week as well, so I'm on a different location. And it's been a busy week, but it's going to be an even busier holiday weekend coming here with a lot of events and a lot of specials coming up here this week as well.
Yeah, this is kind of one of those weekends where it's like some tracks are off and some tracks are racing on a different night than they normally do. And so it's kind of almost a confusing time, but we'll see how everything shakes out. And yeah, like you said, can be a very busy weekend depending on what class you run, or if you're a crazy fan or wants to do 4 to 6 nights, this is your weekend to do it. Jessup, how are you doing?
I'm just baffled that I'm being relegated and punished for just simply asking a question and being viciously attacked by the podcast officials. This will not stand.
Hey, it was a submitted letter that you should be starting in the back by our fellow editing people, and so I'm just following orders.
Are you saying there is a conspiracy?
I'm just here hosting the podcast and making sure we stay on a straight and narrow path.
You know, I think all my Western fans are going to agree this is unjust and unfair and very cruel punishment to an individual who doesn't deserve this.
Well, you'll have to take that up with the editing side and see what they have to say. But outside of that, everything else going well?
Oh, it's good enough as it can be. We're just finishing some loose ends with some school stuff and getting the upcoming work stuff figured out. And if we can get through that, if we can make it through the next week or two, we're going to be all right.
Sounds good. Yeah, at least hopefully that's on the downhill slide and you're almost done with it. And so that's one less burden that you have to deal with.
Oh, it's like every time you go to like plug a crack in the dam, another hole little pops out, and you got to plug that hole, and then another one. And I think we got them all. We just got one or two left to finish, and when we get those done, it'll be smooth sailing.
Good deal. Good deal. Yep, I'm doing pretty good too. It was a weird weekend. I mean, obviously with the weather, which we'll touch on, but yeah, I was basically chasing whatever racing I could, and frustrating that Mother Nature kind of wrecked a whole bunch of plans this weekend, but can't really control Mother Nature. And so we're here, we're ready for another big week of racing. And so we will officially drop the green flag for episode 18 and get right into what we are repping. We'll go back to the pole sitter, Miss Becca. What are you repping?
This week, I am repping the dual squad. Is that a good way to put this? Of Andy Capp and Dustin Erickson. So this is their new shirt for the 2023 racing season. Nice bright blue. And then I believe there is a nice little design on the back as well. So nice new shirts for those two drivers. And yeah, it looks really darn nice. Blue's my favorite color, so I'm partial to this.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot blue was your favorite color. Those are nice shirts too. I got one myself. We'll see whenever it gets revealed. But Becca's got first dibs on the 9K13 shirt for this season. So awesome shirt. Awesome people rep. We want to thank Dustin and Andy. They support us too. They watch our show quite a bit. And so it's nice to see them in Jamestown and sometimes Mandan when they venture out a little bit too. John, what are you repping?
So we're going down the history lesson again that we've been on the last couple of weeks, but it's not the Jamestown Stampede history lesson. It is the Dakota Classic Modified Tour history lesson. And this week we are down to the 26th annual Dakota Modified Tour shirt. And on this shirt,
Oh no, we lost John.
You know, I thought that was the best John's looked all year on the podcast, to be honest.
Does this mean
there was no glare on the screen?
Does this mean he pulled off the track? He packed up and left the track.
I think that's a caution.
Agreed.
That caution, we might have to have a red flag to make sure John's okay, and so we can maybe get him back on track.
Okay, we got a message from John here. He's
He
okay.
hit
He hit the
button.
wrong button. That is a caution.
Is that
A
like hitting the
Cunningham
kill switch in NASCAR? Remember when
would-
that was a thing back in the day? You hit the kill switch.
He hit the kill switch. That's too funny.
Oh, God
Maybe
damn
this
it.
will help though, because this connection was getting pretty rough. And
Well, did you notice once we got rid of the glare on the screen, it started really good like audio for a bit there.
Actually, his audio sounded really good without the camera on. So
yeah,
maybe
once
that's
we
it.
got rid of the glare, it got better.
let's see, get him back in here.
Good. This is how it. Oh, he's back.
Oh man.
how stupid.
Hey, John.
Yes, I deserve a caution flag.
Caution.
Actually, I think it should be a red flag. We have to go send the first responder crew looking for you.
Yeah, we kind of did.
Like how the tablet like fell, so I grabbed it, and then Zoom went down. And when
Right.
Zoom went down on the bottom, it says close all, and I was like, okay.
So to be honest, John, once you dropped it, the audio got better.
No, well, no.
You sound
Okay.
great now, by the way.
Oh, there it
Do I
goes.
Do I sound way better?
Yeah.
Okay, well maybe it helped rejoining it in this path then. So
You look like
okay,
a floating head.
will you shut up?
Yeah, tell her, Mr. Roboto.
Anyways,
My nails look better than yours. So
John, go get back to your history lesson for us.
okay, so let me just restart that whole segment.
Go ahead.
Okay, so today I am going down the history lesson road once again, as in less than 2 weeks, the Dakota Classic Modified Tour is going to be starting with the 34th annual. And to continue my tradition of great racing shirts, I have picked up the 26th annual Dakota Classic Modified Tour shirt. And now the history lesson starts of who do you guys think were champions, as I know Becca's already looking it up.
What year was this?
Well, it's the 26th annual shirt, so it would have been the 25th annual tour. So, I mean, Jessup, if you could do some math, we're on
2015.
years.
2015, I wasn't around.
So, yes, but you can still guess, Jessup,
Can I guess?
Well, first, let's let Mason guess, because we're going to make sure he hasn't looked them up either.
I have not looked it up. So
I am cheating.
I am going to guess Elijah Zevenbergen in stock cars. And then modified, I want to guess Hunter Marriott.
Okay, so Mason, you're wrong on both accounts,
Darn it.
but you're really close on stock cars because Elijah was second.
Was it an out-of-stater in the stock cars?
No, it was an in-stater in the stock cars.
Oh, goodness. I don't think it was Dalton that
It was Dalton.
It was,
Oh,
really?
I was close. I was
Yes.
close with the Flory.
It
Give
was
partial
Dalton,
credit.
Elijah, Harry Messmer, and then it was Jake Nelson and Greg Wichman. Those were
Okay. So was that the year? Because I think championship night was in Jamestown that year, correct?
You are
and
correct.
I think Elijah started in the back of that A main, was coming through the field and got spun out and he had to pull off.
You are correct.
That's right. Okay.
Yep. Okay, modifieds. Becca, I'll let you have a stab at modifieds.
This is the 2014 season. Jeff Turnbull.
Who?
Taylor.
And with that,
And we have a caution.
our front row has not even made it out of the t-shirt. What were you repping?
Jeff Turnbull.
I corrected myself.
Jeff
Whatever.
Turnbull.
Jeff Taylor, the
You gotta,
animal.
you gotta be quicker than that.
I hate this game. Fine, whatever.
So, but Becca is halfway right. It was Jeff Taylor. Animal.
Do I not get a chance to guess at anything? I'm gonna say it was Dalton Flory with the stock cars. And Jeff Taylor instead of Jeff Turnbull.
Who was second in the who was second in the mods?
Well, that'd be Ed Taylor.
Oh my god. That's so bad. So second place in the mods that year was very interesting because it was Jordan Grabowski was runner-up that year in the mods.
Now, John, this wasn't the years where they had the 100+ fields yet.
It was close to 100+ fields. Yep.
But this wasn't during the big year.
No, not quite.
That had like two or three more years till that happened.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. But Jordan Grabowski was second. Steven Pfeiffer had a great tour in third. And then it was Ryan Reuter and Brian Mullen from Wisconsin. So
he is a good racer.
Really very interesting dynamic there for your top 5 in your modifieds for your final points. To Becca's credit, Turnbull was in the top 10. No, it was not Jeff Turnbull. It was Aaron Turnbull who finished 10th.
What about Ed Taylor? Where did he finish?
Ed Taylor wasn't in the top 10, unfortunately.
Oh, I hate this game.
That is wow. That's 8 years ago. Wow. That's crazy.
I know, right? The shirt's 8 years ago. The champions on the back are almost going to be 9 years here pretty quick.
That's nuts. Yeah, we're going to kind of touch a little bit on the latest registrations for the Dakota Classic Mod Tour. And so yeah, it's exciting that it's only 2 weeks away. So first reminder of the podcast, get registered if you're an IMCA stock car or an IMCA modified driver.
Registered. I mean, you have links all over Facebook and also their website. So check out any of the tracks on the tour. A lot of them have shared the posts on Facebook to get registered.
Yep. Sweet. So cool trip down memory lane, John. I'll go next on who or what I'm repping. I'm kind of throwing it back 6 years. This is a 2017 shirt. Mackenzie Fall. She drove an IMCA Sport Mod from Minot, and it's a nice purple shirt. Got her car on the back. She now lives in Iowa, so she kind of visits. She doesn't really race anymore. She's had a couple, I think 1 or 2 children, but she's down there. She kind of visits Boone, kind of watches racing there. And so, yeah, I got to know her really well, living up in Minot for several years. And so came so close to getting her first feature win. I don't know if she got her, I don't think she got her first career win, but she was close many times. And she was really, really fun to hang around with. One of the nicest people you'll talk to at the racetrack. And so one of my favorite shirts, being it's purple. So repping Mackenzie Fall, who now resides in Iowa. And so that leads us to Jessup. Who or what are you repping?
Well, kids, the trend of irrelevancy continues, even more so today than ever before, as after doing some deep research, this individual is still racing, but they are racing asphalt modifieds and super late models, and it's Blake Rowe of Ortonville, Michigan. He has raced 6 times this year, and he has already picked up 1 win in the modified division. And that's about all I really know about him because, that's all we need to know. He's going to stay irrelevant unless you know him and he needs another shirt. We will send this out there. Remember, folks, we are more than happy to give away the majority of my irrelevant shirts if you want them. Just leave us a 5-star review and you too will be getting an irrelevant shirt.
That name looks so familiar. Did he ever race sprint cars or anything like that?
Not a clue. I just looked him up. But let's go to My Race Pass and see what they have for him. He won this year at Owasso Speedway in the modified. Let's see what else he's done, just out of curiosity. 3 top 5s, 5 top 10s. The next closest finish to is a 5th in modifieds and a 5th in super. Let's drop back to 2019, see what he was doing back then.
Now, they have a good mix of asphalt and dirt tracks over in Michigan, so he's got plenty of options for racing, it seems like.
I don't think so, Mason. It looks like a lot of it just looks like a lot of asphalt racing. As going back to 2017, he's racing asphalt modifieds up at Kalamazoo, and that's not a dirt track. So,
gotcha. Well, it's still kind of cool to see what kind of racing shirts are out there, and that's like I actually like the colors on that shirt.
You too, Mason, can own an irrelevant shirt if you leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and if you leave us a comment with it, I will read it off. Good, bad, or otherwise, you can tell us all off if you'd like. Just remember, keep it tasteful. And then I will read it.
Last week I reorganized all my shirts in my closet. I don't need any more shirts. But the sad part is I probably acquiring or purchased like another 3 to 5 this last weekend. So
yes,
take that with a grain of salt.
Mason, I feel like you do need more shirts. You can never have enough shirts. I mean, I'm proof of that from my bowling jersey perspective. You can never have enough.
Well, it's nice to have options, especially when, like I travel to so many different tracks. It's nice to pick out like, okay, who can I rep for that goes to this track that's one of their home tracks? And I can kind of pick out a shirt, and I have like a shirt I can wear to each track if I need to.
Becca, should we throw a caution on him?
Why?
Because isn't it something that we talked about as being, marketing yourself or being part of a group or facility that you really shouldn't ever really be promoting like one driver when you're at the track.
I think Mason doesn't really represent a singular track. He represents his business. So if he feels that he wants to do that, I think he sure can. Now, if he were, let's say, the announcer at a certain track, I think this goes back to our conversation that I personally don't like to wear driver shirts when I'm working at a racetrack, because I don't want to let fans or viewers watching at home on a streaming platform or drivers think that I have any favoritism when I'm on the mic, or let's say a questionable call happens on the track and I just so happen to be wearing that driver's t-shirt or hoodie or beanie and I go and interview them in victory lane. That looks a little weird. So I personally shy away from wearing driver t-shirts when I am representing a racetrack. Whereas Mason doesn't represent a singular racetrack. I think he's just kind of the people's champion, and
Dave Darland?
He's Mason
Becca doesn't
Eisenheimer,
know who
and
that is.
I figured she didn't.
You
He's
do bring
Mason.
up a good point though, John and Becca, because like the times I've announced, at least in the last year, like I've announced like the first half of the heat races in Cheyenne, I wear the Cheyenne volunteer shirt with like a street stock tour hat or something like that. Over in Mandan, now I have some Dakota Speedway gear, so I rep that while I'm announcing. And even like when I've been doing like the tour stuff too, I try not to wear, especially if I'm like the Moonshine Mod Tour, for example, I wore a shirt that was in a different class. So that way, like, especially when we do like the live redraw, I'm not wearing a shirt that's like, hey, I'm wearing this shirt. And then that person draws like the number 1 card. It's like, that would look a little weird. So you do bring up a very solid point when it comes to wearing shirts.
It would be even better if you physically went down there with that said driver shirt on and then pointed at the number 1 and then had that driver pick that one. I mean, that would have just been perfect.
It would be, well, then what would happen if they drew the number 8? Because that's actually been very common. Like, they draw like the worst number, the first person that goes down and choose. It's like, I just shuffled them. I don't know what you want.
Right?
I wanted number 1, Mason. It's not that hard.
It's a good discussion because, yeah, that's sometimes drivers and fans sometimes look for every little thing to see if there's any sort of favoritism. And so that's a good point that you brought up. And so I do my best to remain as neutral as possible and not try to give away any favoritism vibes. But with how much I travel around, I just pick out a shirt if it's nothing special going on, and hopefully it brings good luck to someone or just nice to show appreciation.
Mason, I agree. I think it's a really good show of appreciation for the drivers out there when they see you show up at their track and you're wearing something that supports a local from that racetrack. I think it's a very nice show of support.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is who or what are we repping, and we will move on into this week's Track Pack report, which, yikes. So let's start like this. Becca and Jessup, what racing were you able to get to this weekend?
We saw so much racing.
So
It was a lot. Yeah. Let's see. We watched Falls. Oh, hey, there's Oli. He's making multiple appearances tonight.
I like how he went from your screen to Becca's.
Anyways, we watched the Fairbury race. That was pretty good. They had
we should probably start with Friday in the fact that it rained here in the Bismarck-Minden area. Too much rain to race, so Dakota Speedway was forced to cancel. So we had Friday night off.
pretty sure everyone but Williston had to cancel.
Yeah, so saw parts of Williston Friday, saw most of the features on Saturday. And then as Jessup was mentioned, we watched Fairbury, Skagit. What else did we watch? I watched NASCAR on Sunday.
Oh, we watched Electric City.
Oh yes, yep,
Oh,
watched
yeah.
Electric City.
So
There's
that's
some
pretty
carnage in their street stocks. And then Midco was actually airing the races from Grand Forks on Sunday. So was kind of flipping back and forth between them, the Nodak broadcast, and then watching NASCAR. So, and there's Oli again. So we watched all sorts of racing, just didn't make it to a track. So
Yeah, this is one of those weekends where it was actually easy to almost watch the replays of all the racing that took place this weekend across the region.
there wasn't a whole lot to choose from. So
No, there wasn't. I'll get to John here as we get into the recap a little bit. I did 5 straight nights of racing and got two of those nights completed. So it was rough sledding. I mean, I saw
sled in the summer.
At some tracks, well, not the tracks I was at, but like based on some pictures I saw of some facilities, they had some moisture at their track. I'll put it that way. So I did see feature action at 4 out of the 5. So I did take in a lot of feature races, but not completed nights, unfortunately. Wednesday and Thursday was the ADA Nationals for the Norman County Fair. The first night was all the regular classes minus the Wissota Midwest Mods who race on Thursday, and they got their modifieds and hobby stock A main in, and they were just 4 laps into their 40 lap sport mod race before the rains came. And there was actually like, you saw this big cloud come in and you could see the rain. It's just like, I wonder how long it's going to take to get there. And it's just looming closer and closer. It's like, yeah, this is not going to be good. And so they pulled the plug as soon as it started raining because they knew it wasn't going to be great. So I think the track missed the brunt of that storm. And so thankfully they didn't wreck anything too badly for Thursday's night race, which featured the NLRA, the first night of the Rebel Midwest Mod Tour, and the Minnesota IMCA Race Saver Sprint Series. So got to see a different group of drivers kind of from the southern Minnesota area come up and race for that. And so getting to Wednesday's results real quick from ADA, that was Matt Auckland winning in the IMCA Modifieds, and then Brody Eckert racing the hobby stock. So those are the only 2 feature races that got completed that night. I believe they're off until July 20th, and I think that's when they're going to make up most of the races from this last Wednesday. Thursday, going into the Rebel Midwest Mod Tour, they had, I think it's hard to tell because they do pre-registration, 32 to 33 pre-registered, but only 29 took the green flag in the heat race. And so still a really good start car count wise for the Rebel Midwest Mod Tour, especially on a Thursday. Really good pool of drivers from North Dakota, South Dakota, and Minnesota. And so they put on a really good show, had a couple cautions early because they started all 29 of them. I was kind of concerned about that, but they did a really good job. I think they ran like the last 16, 17 laps caution free. One of the locals that we know very well, Jaron Webstead, started, I believe, outside row number 3, was slowly working the high line around car after car and got past outside pole sitter Justin Jones with about 4 or 5 laps to go and got his first Rebel Midwest Mod Tour win. So Justin Jones was second, and then rounding out the podium was Shane Howell in the L1. And so that's a pretty stout podium of drivers. So really good kickoff for the Midwest Mods. The NLRA had also a solid field of cars. I'm trying to remember the number of cars. I think it was 27. John, can you correct me on that?
I think it was 27.
Yeah, so they had a really good field of cars there too. And Tyler Peterson, who's kind of been on a tear, started a little ways back, got around Shane Edgington and had a little bit of contact with Dustin Strand in the 71, which it turns out they've had contact before, so we might see a little bit of a rivalry brewing in the late models in our neck of the woods. And so that'll be interesting to watch as the season progresses. And so Tyler Peterson notched another big win in the Wissota late models. And he's, like I said, he's been on a tear the last few weeks, and it seems like he's putting more focus in the Wissota late model. And so be interesting to see how the rest of the summer plays out for him. And then in the Minnesota IMCA Race Saver Sprints, Ty Wilkie, who's, I believe, undefeated so far in the Red River Sprint Series, started up towards the front and held off all challengers to get the win in the IMCA Race Saver Sprints. And so that kicked off the weekend of racing. It's always fun. They race with the Norman County Fair, and it's always a very full crowd, especially on Thursday night. And it's nice to go kind of gorge yourself in fair food after the races too. So
Mason, I looked it up. It was 20 late models.
20. I think I was confusing with Sunday night at River City. So I think
27 at River Cities. That's why I was kind of confused too. I was like, I know they had 27 one place.
Yep. So that was Wednesday and Thursday. And you guys kind of touched on Friday with races getting canceled all over the place. John, you went down and watched some racing with the Pelkeys, correct?
Yeah, I was down there, and like Justin and Becca mentioned, we watched Electric City. We also watched Fairbury, and then we watched Williston on there also. So, and then we checked out some old races from when those guys were at Indy last year. So that was kind of cool to see too, some of the late model features that they watched and attended.
You know, say it's got to be like, I mean, I've been over and watched racing with Jessup and Becca before, but it's got to be fun kind of switching from one race to another, kind of having options, you know, like maybe there's like an intermission going on and then you can watch something else. It's got to be pretty fun.
Oh, it really is. We also did a Storm Chasers game, which Mason will have you join out and play with that as well. But that was very interesting, very entertaining. It was a very fun game. So we actually had a really good time with that down there too. And yeah, overall, it was a really good night down there. One interesting little tidbit, because we came across this on Saturday night when we were looking at my race pass. Did you know that some tracks in some series are actually uploading results from previous years before my race pass went live? So
I did
for
not know
instance,
that.
if you go back to some tracks and you look at their schedule, you're going to see some events from way back. And when I mean way back, you might hit early 2000s, or you might even be back in the 90s. So it was very interesting to see on how some of the I would say history back from maybe with Soda or some of the series on there, or even, you know, some of the IMCA stuff is being uploaded into some tracks and into some events. So that was pretty cool to see. A lot of the 360 sprint car stuff from Wasoda has been uploaded. So a lot of those results have been uploaded for several tracks that have been racing that class, you know, throughout the years. So that was pretty cool to see too.
Nice. Yeah, that would be fun to kind of explore in the off season too. I'm sure you probably got like books and notes upon like races from like Jamestown and probably Mandan too.
Never. No. But I don't really have any of those results at all anymore. So no, I'm joking. I've got books upon books upon books from when I started doing results with every single track we attended throughout the race season. So yeah, on every single event. So I got a ton of books of previous results that date back to the 90s.
Dang. That's fun. Glad you at least had a fun night amongst all the cancellations that kind of took place around the area. Yeah, Friday for me was kind of just watching to see what tracks were available for racing. I think by noon, 1 o'clock, most options besides like a couple had been eliminated. So it was down to I-94 and Fiesta City Speedway. And I was initially looking at Fiesta City Speedway because the forecast looked better. But then I-94 kind of cleared up, I want to say around 3 o'clock. And so I'm like, well, considering Fiesta City is just about a 3-hour drive both ways, and I-94 is like 45 minutes, I'm like, we're going to I-94 just in case, because you never know what the weather is going to do. And so went over to I-94. They also had the NLRA in attendance, and they had quite a few late models there as well. They had 29 late models for their show and had a couple sprinkles later in the heats, but nothing that really did anything to the track. It was humid as heck. So like there's a lot of moisture in the track and it never left. And so it was tacky and fast the entire night for all the classes. And so they got 3 features in before the remaining rain came, unfortunately. So Street Stocks kicked off the action with Tucker Peterson, who's been traveling quite a bit, obviously with Red River City's canceling, and he's been running for national points. And so he's kind of traveling wherever he can. And so he was leading the majority of the race till late caution, and then Ryan Sauer snuck around the outside of him. So Ryan Sauer is getting back on his hot streak and winning in the Street Stocks. The Gen X late models. So Scott Zimmerman is credited with the win. Initially, it was Ben Wolden coming across in first, but he was DQ'd after the race. I didn't hear exactly why that was, but Scott Zimmerman, that's his first win in the Daytona 1 Gen X late model. So big congrats out to Scott. And then the NRA late models, Brad Singh started on the pole and he checked out, which kind of surprised me because usually I see Brad like as a really dominant car in like more of a dry slick track condition. And this track was like hammered down the entire way. And he had Don Shaw chasing him. Mike Gresseth also put up a good run in third. And so, yeah, Brad Singh, I believe that's all like he's won 2 of the last few races at I-94, including the King of the Dirt. And so he's kind of got a knack for that place as of late. And so rounding out the top 5 was Justin Strand in the 71 and Cole Schill in the 44. And so that was all the racing we got in at I-94 on Friday night. So then moving on to Saturday, could you remind me you all what you watched on Saturday before I kind of get into my little Saturday recap or lack thereof.
So we started with Williston. So Williston, first we started with our features. We watched the mods, the stock cars, as well as the sport mod A main. So we watched those classes throughout basically the telecast was what we were able to see on there too. We also saw the hobby stocks as well. And then after they were done, we flipped over to Fairbury for a little bit, and then also flipped over to Electric City for a little bit as well, and saw the street stock feature of Electric City, which there was a. Here's the thing, that the track at Electric City, it didn't look bad by any means. It looked like it was, in pretty good shape. I mean, track looks like it's a really nice facility overall, from watching and looking at it directly. And then, but there was just a lot of carnage in the street stocks over there. They had 19 of them, so there was just a lot of damage that night. But no, overall it was a pretty good show overall with what we watched.
I did not know Electric City had a live stream. Where were you able to watch that, on Speed Sport or something like that?
Yep.
Nice. It'd be fun to check that out because, yeah, I mean, besides like the live videos you see from race teams, I don't really see a whole lot of live or replayed racing from the tracks out west. So that's pretty cool that we're able to kind of watch a few of our racing friends out west. And unfortunately, on Saturday in particular, they didn't have the best fortunes, but they rebounded the rest of the weekend. Saturday basically eliminated all racing because of rain, except for one place, Madison Speedway. So I ventured down there. That's like a 2-hour and 15-minute drive, and it was perfectly sunny halfway to the track. And so, and of course, then a dreaded cloud started to loom like halfway through the heat races, and they got within one heat race of making it an official program, and like a 2-minute downpour occurred. And so they did. I will give kudos to Madison Speedway. They tried packing that track in for like a good solid 30 minutes, and they had not only their track equipment, but they had like not spectator, but pit trucks. Some people were taking their personal vehicles out to kind of pack the track, and the bottom was getting worked in, but the top was just way too slimy. And you have like trucks getting stuck on the top of the berm, and just they made the call, I think around 10:30, that's like, yeah, we're not going to get this packed back in. So unfortunately, didn't get the race night completed in Madison. So that was a long drive home, unfortunately, because I was really bummed. I love going down to Madison, and it's not someplace I get to too much. But Sunday was much better hope for racing for a couple places. And so John and I got to take an action at the Nodak Speedway. I made a late decision that, like, you know what, I haven't been home at all this year, it seems like. And so we're going to make the surprise trip up to mine. I texted my family. It's like, hey, head in your direction. They're like, what are you doing? And so I'm like, it's basically one of the only places that are racing. And I didn't want to, I could have gone to Grand Forks for the fair of being an hour away, but like with the way my luck was going that weekend, I'm like, I'm just going to go home so I can spend time with family if things go sideways. And so, John, what was your takeaways from Nodak Speedway on Sunday?
There was three main takeaways. First takeaway, legends were back. So they had the legends there for the first time in several years back at Nodak, and had a very strong field of 25 cars. So it was really cool to see 25 cars in attendance throughout the night, and just a really, really good field of cars there for Nodak show. Second thing, overall, very good car counts across the board. They ran 5 divisions on Sunday night, and they had 96 total cars. So really good car counts across the board within their classes and within each one of their divisions. And final thing is, kudos to Nodak Speedway. That racetrack was in really good shape on Sunday. They had some tack in the track. It was smooth. They were able to use the top side and the bottom side. And it led to some really good racing throughout the whole entire night. And they didn't even have to do a ton of track work throughout the night at all. They basically had the track ready to go when they started the night. And then they did the track at intermission before the features came out, and did basically one more quick water session after that, and that was it throughout the night. So they had a really good night overall. Show was done in about 3 hours, so really good from a timing perspective too, and just a really good night of racing overall for Nodak.
I'd agree. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same line as you as far as takeaways. That was the first visit for Legends, I believe, since 2015. So quite a bit long time since the Legends last visited there. I too was impressed with that 25 Legends showed up, especially for a class that doesn't race there regularly, to get 25 to basically travel, most of them probably 2 or more hours away. That's really, really good job. Really kudos to the Legend drivers that made the trip up there. Yeah, I agree with you. The track was in really good condition. Like all the racing, I thought was pretty dang good. And yeah, there's car counts are it's really nice to see near full fields in most of the classes, because yeah, for a while it's like kind of was dipping down in that like 12 to 14, 15 range. And so I think they had like over 20, like over a full field of sport mods, a good field of modifieds. I think they were missing some regulars because they had some carnage, I think, out in Wilson from Friday and Saturday. So I think that affected in a couple of classes. But yeah, overall, I thought it was an awesome night. It was so great to be back in the hometown. I have a really great appreciation for being able to visit there whenever I can, since I live 4 hours away now. And so sport mods, John, you want to kind of set the stage for the sport mods that kick things off?
What a battle up front. I would say they had 26 sport mods. They had no cautions during any of their heat races. Their heat races went green to checkered on each one of them. In the feature, I think they only had 2 cautions, maybe 3 cautions total wise. So really good race for the sport mods overall. But what a battle up front. You had Drew Papke on the high side, and you had Darren Schatz, who is a past Jamestown Stock Car Stampede champion, on the bottom. And they were just slowly but surely battling it out up front over the field. And Schatz was using the bottom to his advantage, and Papke looked super good on the high side. I mean, Papke looked really good in his heat race too. He won by a couple seconds in his heat race and just looked really good. And on the restart, Schatz was able to get around Papke. They had a caution. They reset it back up for the Delaware double file restart. And I was surprised because Papke took the bottom in the second row and fell back to third. And then he fell back to fourth, got back on the high side, and drove his way back up to the lead. He took the lead back with about 4 laps to go, got too high in turns 1 and 2, and Darren Schatz took his line away and ended up winning in Minot. So that was really cool to see too for Darren, but a great run for Drew Papke as well, who's a rookie this year in the sport mod class.
Yeah, I thought he looked really good right out of the gate, like you said, in the heat race, and of course the feature. Yeah, just didn't quite clear Schatz enough when he took the lead back, and Schatz kind of saw the line and kind of stole it away the last couple laps. But yeah, good run to Darren Schatz. Papke second, Taylor Stenvold in the 21 was third, Gabe Deschamps coming from 11th up to 4th, and Chad Stretching rounding out your top 5 in the sport mods. I believe next on the program was Sport Compacts, which they had a really good field of Sport Compacts. They had, I believe, 12 there on Sunday night, and that's another encouraging sign, because a lot of those drivers are from that local Minot area, and so you got a good pool of drivers to get some good experience and kind of hopefully they venture off into different classes like hobbies or sport mods, even up into the modifies. And so I thought that was really encouraging to see too. They had a little bit of carnage in the first few laps. Had a couple flat tires. That was the first couple laps of that race were really chaotic. It seemed like kind of was like one thing happened in turn 2 and then another thing happens in turn 4. It was nuts.
It was really it was strange with the flat tires. I mean, those drivers were just driving the wheels right off the cars. Essentially is what was happening there too. And a couple of your top point guys were the ones that had flat tires, and they both went in the pits at the same time and had to get changed and come back out. So yeah, it was really strange on how that happened directly with tires. But James Gilbert won, so congratulations to James Gilbert. Finally got that car figured out. I mean, he's had struggles here at the start of the year trying to get the car to even run appropriately. So he finally got the car figured out, and he was untouched essentially throughout that whole feature event.
Yeah, and like he's kind of dabbling in the IMCA hobby stocks the last couple of years. Hasn't raced a whole lot in that. Before that, he was really dominant in the IMCA Sport Compacts, and so yeah, it was kind of a surprise to see him struggle up to this point. But now kind of getting that win out of the way and kind of hopefully getting the ball rolling on being consistently up towards the front. And so James Gilbert was your winner. Zach Eubanks in the 27Z was second. Alex Thompson coming from 10th up to 3rd, and I'm from the back with a flat tire as well. Brian Eubanks in the 03 was 4th, and Chris Yost rounded out your top 5. Then your hobby stocks took to the track. I was they put on a really good show. Like the first few laps, they're like 3 wide all the way throughout the pack for several laps. And Andrew Birch, who's been racing his dad's Troy's car, the 148, kind of was able to maneuver through the traffic super quick and kind of check out. Meanwhile, you got guys like Kyler Satrin and Caden Appouch, who are some of the top runners there that are like just mired in the traffic. They just couldn't really go anywhere. And I'm just thinking like, oh man, they better get through the traffic soon because Andrew's just checking out and checking out. And like they went the first, I think it was 11 laps with no cautions.
I think they had the first 11 laps with no cautions, and then they had the caution that set up like a 4-lap shootout. So
yeah. And that worked out really key for like Caden Appel because, oh gosh, he's so fun to watch because he will absolutely like lay that car into the corners. Like he'll like absolutely throw it in sideways and he gets some good speed, especially when running the high side. And so he was catching Andrew, but he kind of messed up like just before the caution came out, kind of almost blew it off at turn 1 and 2. And so that caution really proved pivotal as he took about 1 lap to get around Andrew with about 3 laps to go and then cruise on to the feature win. And so Caden's he's been definitely like the fastest car there. It's just a matter of like being able to stay on the track and kind of like staying out of misfortunes. Like, I think he had a flat tire during like the Tougher Than Dirt Tour race. Another instance where he kind of blew it off the track and spun out. And so, but he's been up towards the front at every single race he's competed in. And so Caden was your winner in the 70, Andrew Birch second, Kyler Satcher with a solid third, Thomas Goldsberry with a good run in fourth, and Brenner Gridstead running at your top 5 in the hobby stocks. So legends, a lot of familiar drivers that we know. We had several drivers come up from like the Bismarck area, Wishick, some came over from the Dickinson area to race as well. And so, John, what was your takeaway, or kind of give us a little recap of the legends feature?
Yeah, so I'll start with the heat races as well. So legend heat races were really good. They were able to use middle, top, bottom for that race, and it was a really good battle overall. It was very interesting to watch because a lot of those drivers, since they're so young, or a lot of our legend drivers are still youngsters out there too. They've never competed on Minot, so they've never been to Nodak. For instance, like the Madlers had never been to Nodak from a physical, racing on the track perspective. Gus Jensen has never been on the track from a racing perspective. Austin Wiest has never been on the track from a racing perspective. So a lot of those drivers had never been on Nodak's facility, which is kind of cool, to see how they would adapt and even how gearing worked, because you could tell in between heats to even features, some drivers, their gearing was not correct. So they made changes before the feature came around. But during the feature event, the Donovan Wiest line was in play in Nodak. So I give Donovan a lot of crap for that. But Donovan basically got to the bottom of the track and he got to the front. It was an interesting race to watch, though. And the reason for that is because, and Donovan even said it in Victory Lane, he was not very good through 3 and 4. He really struggled through 3 and 4. He was a little bit too tight in 3 and 4. So when he went through 3 and 4, sometimes he was a lot slower than the drivers behind him. So he was kind of surprised he held on because 3 and 4 was definitely where his downfall was. He was really good in 1 and 2, but he wasn't very good in 3 and 4. So Donovan won, though. He beat Preston. Those 2 drivers are going to be in a dogfight again this year for track championships, not just over in Mandan. Jamestown, they're also going to battle for the track championship. They're probably going to battle up in Nodak for the 3 events that are up there as well. So and over in probably in Wishick, they'll probably be battling quite hard this year. So good race between those 2 drivers. Austin Wiest had a strong run up there in third. And Tommy Quinzer was right up there throughout the night, along with Bryce Barnhart was right up there, as well as Gus Jensen and the Madlers. So both Madler boys had very strong runs up there in the front as well. But yeah, just a good night overall to watch the legends again in Minot.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were really excited to kind of see legends and kind of something different, kind of venturing up into the Nodak Speedway. And so I agree. Nice to see it get solid bit of legends again. I don't want to leave the Pelkeys out at all. And so I know you guys kind of watched a little bit of Nodak throughout the night. And so any takeaways or anything you saw that stood out, or even like modifieds we haven't gotten to? So anything that kind of stood out to you too, watching from home? Jessup, you are muted.
I know. I clicked it, but it didn't unmute. So it's not a caution.
So
Why does that would be a caution?
Because we've given cautions for if you're muted before.
All right, whatever. Anyways,
it's just like Becky at Dakota Speedway when she tries to talk.
Anyways, I didn't get to watch much of it because Becca had it on. She was pulling weeds.
Oh, yes.
Weeds again? Okay, now race
I was
fans.
watching
and drivers,
NASCAR.
I was watching NASCAR.
I was
Once
watching
again-
NASCAR.
I
again,
was watching
all of our-
NASCAR.
all of our podcast followers and all of our drivers out there, and again, all of our fans. Again, Becca's weed picking service is available at your disposal at any point of time. Whenever you need to have some weeds picked, you just contact the one and only Becca Pelkey. You can find her online, as she is very social these days on social media platforms. And you can also find her at her phone number, which is 701. Again, call that number anytime, day or night, and she can help you with picking your weeds.
Thanks, John.
But- By the way, Becca, you're welcome for me editing out that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
That's like a great promo, though.
It is a great promo.
It's such a good promo.
Yeah. So yeah, I watched the replay Monday when I was working, and I was just overly impressed with the big car counts that Nodak drew on Sunday night. That's amazing. I'm glad to see that. Great travelers. My computer's gonna die, but great travelers. I think that's just not just at Nodak, but I think there's been a lot of traveling this season across the tracks across North Dakota. So, but I was glad to see that there were a lot of travelers this weekend up at the Nodak Speedway, and great racing, because the racing surface was amazing. Produced a lot of different racing lines for the drivers to choose from, and it just made for great racing throughout the night. So they hit the nail on the setup this week, and congrats to Nodak.
Well, and I do agree too. It's nice to see like a good car count, especially on a Sunday night, because Sunday nights are very tough, especially nowadays. That's kind of like one of the nights that drivers or fans like to skip just because it could be a late night and getting home. And so, as we'll see how long Becca's computer lasts on here, I'll kind of kick things off on the modifieds. And so, I believe it was 18 cars that were in attendance. And so, obviously, one of the main guys that you kind of watch out for is Travis Hagen, and the legends were just before that running the bottom. And so like it was kind of dirty up top. And I looked over to John. I'd asked him, like, I wonder if there's a top side. I wonder if they'll get the top to work in. We are like, I think there's going to be a couple guys that try it and probably get it to burn, probably take a couple laps. And, sure enough, like as soon as the green flag fell, everyone kind of went to the bottom, and they had one or two guys go up to the top, and then like weren't going anywhere for a couple laps. And like the fourth lap, all of a sudden you see, like, I think Smalls was the first one up there and he blew it off. But then Travis got up there and just like, here he goes. And just one by one, just kind of marched his way to the front. And as soon as he went to the front, there went everyone up to the top. But I left like our friend Isaac, he was stuck on the bottom. He was catfishing the entire time and actually was maintaining very well inside the top five. And while Travis checked out, it was a really good battle, but from second to seventh. They were kind of exchanging sliders and kind of crisscrossing every set of corners. And it was a really good race to watch. And so, but Travis Hagen got his third straight win of the weekend from eighth, followed by Jared Thielen, who looked really good, dominated his heat race and dominated the early part of the feature until Travis got by, held on for second in front of Wayne Johnson, Brady Biella, and Isaac Hot Sauce Sandro. You mentioned Travelers. Sean Strand was just outside the top five in sixth in that fierce battle for second and third. And so, great night of racing overall at the Nodak Speedway at the Playground of Power. And they are off until the 4th of July in the Dakota Classic Modified Tour. So, nice mini break for them. So, that wrapped up the little racing we had this weekend that we got to watch and witness. And so, we'll go into what's upcoming for the holiday weekend. And with Mr. Dakota Dirt, what is on tap?
Oh my gosh, now race fans, drivers, and everybody that watches our podcast again, if you want your one-stop shop for everything North Dakota racing news, results, recaps, weather forecasts, and much more, you have to check out Dakota Dirt. Again, they are on social media platforms because they are very social these days. You can even, find them on various social media platforms, even more than just Facebook. And then you can also check out their website. So they are at dakotadirt.org. Again, you can spend hours upon hours on there finding just various little tidbits of information. But again, they are your one-stop shop for North Dakota racing news. Check them out at Dakota Dirt.
Thank you, John. Anyways, we got a pretty busy week of racing. Actually, we got a pretty busy next 3 weeks of racing, but this week really kicks off tomorrow night at the Red River Valley Speedway as the World of Outlaw late models come into town, and they'll be joined by the IMCA Northern Sport Mods. So that should be a good show out east. Thursday night, Cheyenne has the. My phone went off because of people. Anyways, Cheyenne has, I think they have this street stock tour this week. So it should be a good night out there for them. Probably I would like to see them get about 20 plus cars there for the street stocks. And then Friday, it looks like, well, they got the big A-Mod special up in the McLean County Speedway in Underwood. So they should have a lot of cars on hand there. And then River Cities will be racing that night as well. July 1st sees the Southwest Speedway in action, along with the Estevan Motor Speedway just north of the border. Sunday has Nodak Speedway and Thunder Mountain racing as well. And then Monday, it's Williston Basin with their fireworks special. And then on Tuesday, the 4th of July, Nodak and Jamestown will be having their big 4th of July specials as well.
Awesome. I think just one correction. I don't believe Nodak is racing on the 2nd.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was on their first schedule they released, but they updated I don't know when they updated it, but they are not racing this Sunday.
Well, then that is an unknown correction. My bad.
No
Everybody,
problem.
You can wave a legit caution on that then.
I honestly didn't know that they weren't racing this Sunday until I was at the track this last week.
Oh, well, then I'm taking my caution back.
I mean, I won't throw a caution on you for that. But yeah, I was like, because I always assumed they race on the Sunday even before the 4th, but not this year. But they're racing all the regular classes on the 4th for the first time in several years.
Really?
Yep.
I thought they would just do their sport mods, hobby stocks, and maybe wingless sprints and sport compacts that night.
No, they are all. It's just 4 classes. So stock, cars, modifieds, hobby stocks, and sport mods, and fireworks afterwards.
Best part of the show.
Best part of the show. Yes. Yeah. So we got a good amount of racing in the state of North Dakota taking place. As far as outside of North Dakota, we have on Thursday the 29th KRA Speedway and Victory Lane Speedway in action. Friday, the Brown County Speedway, I believe, is hosting the NOSA Sprint Cars. So that should be that should be a fun show for them, along with fireworks there as well.
I think they're running everything except their street stocks, super stocks.
Street stocks are off.
Okay.
Yep. Which, speaking of street stocks, the street stock tour then goes to I-94 on that Friday. Fiesta City Speedway is also running. It's their Meet the Drivers night there as well. And then already moving into the month of July on Saturday. Not pleased about that, but gosh, summer goes by way too fast. Buffalo River Speedway is running on Saturday. I believe they're featuring stock cars on Saturday. The Greenbush Race Park is also running. I-94 has the World of All late models and the street stock tour there. And then you also have Madison Speedway, Miller Central Speedway, North Central Speedway, and Viking Speedway on Saturday. So that's a busy night of racing. Sunday the 2nd is Bemidji Speedway and the Casino Speedway. Monday the 3rd, Miller Central Speedway kind of closes things off outside the state of North Dakota. So there's a lot of racing. There's a lot of kind of weird dates that tracks are normally not running on. And so be sure, if you're looking for racing, that you check which night these tracks are racing, because some of them are a little bit different than normal. So depending on how long Becca's battery lasts, since we had a little race and we were kind of going to take a stab at shouting out like a driver or two that has kind of caught our eye that's improved so far in 2023. So Becca, I'll let you go first on this.
I actually had a couple of drivers who I thought have greatly improved since maybe even last season. But the first, there are 2 drivers, but they're related, so I'm just going to count them as one. I've been really impressed with the Madler boys, both Noah and Gage Madler. They started racing last summer, and they were fairly fast last summer too. They were making features and running near the front. What, John?
They started racing, and I believe it was 2021.
Sure. Anyways, as I was saying,
They were at the Stampede in 21.
again, who remembers stuff like that? My most improved this year are both the Madler boys, both Noah and Gage, and they both picked up wins this season. So, and I think my computer's gonna die now. So, bye.
Oh no.
Apparently, it wasn't on now, and that's a caution. And now
Goodbye.
Becca is being put to the pits.
Well, we've lost one car for it sounds like the remainder of the race.
Well,
Way
she
to go,
could come
John.
down and join Jessup. They could just be together on the podcast.
That would be pretty cool. Jessup, do you want to go next on your most improved, or do you want one of us to go next?
I will say Tyler Peterson in his late model.
That's it. I'd agree with that, especially like coming out of the gate. He ended up with the top 5. I think his first race to Devil's Lake, but before I think he looped it on his own right away in the feature race. And it's like, it might be a bit of a learning curve, but yeah, he's definitely picked up pretty quick.
Yeah, so I will say him for my most improved driver in his late model.
Awesome. You want me to go next, John?
Yeah, you can go next, Mason. I've got a couple.
So I will highlight 2 other late model drivers as well. I kind of go outside North Dakota a little bit. Josh Zimpel in the 5 with Soda late model has been really putting some good runs together. He won, I think it was down in Ogilvie earlier this year. And he's definitely been one guy that's been running up towards the front of several late model races and been really fun to watch move through the pack. I know I was hoping to put a camera on his car on Friday night, but with how the track was and how wet it was, and I'm like, yeah, it's with how fast they're going, and it would have taken one little mud thing and that camera would have been gone. And so, but Josh Simple is my first most improved, and I think Rusty Coleman in the number 2 has also been improving steadily as well. It's his first year in the Minnesota late model class and moving from Midwest Modifieds. I think he still has a Midwest mod, but he's been fun to kind of watch progress and get more and more comfortable with the late model. And so he was very encouraged with his progress when I talked to him in the pits at Norman County. And so Rusty Coleman and Josh Zimbo are my 2 most improved.
I'll add one more just because I know John's got a handful. I will say Joseph Thomas in the modified. He's had a very strong year. I think it's definitely an improvement from previous years. So, I mean, to be consistently in the top 5 of and in the talk of winning every race, that's a pretty big improvement.
Yeah, he's now one of the guys that, like, whenever he shows up to the track, it's like he's one of the guys you got to watch in contention for the win. So I agree with that too. John, who is your most improved so far, or a couple most improved?
Okay, so I'll do 2. Also, I'll just stay with the theme of 2 on here. So I'm gonna go legend route here really quick, just like Becca with the Madler boys. I'm also gonna go Colin Thompson. So, and you can even throw Xander into that mix too. Xander has looked pretty good here to start off the season as well, but Colin has been on a tear this year with having, not this past weekend, but the weekend before, 3 wins in a row, and doing really well within that legend this year. And he's in the thick of several points battles at local tracks. So Colin has had a really, really strong start to his season. The other driver that I have to highlight on here too is Jordan Sowers. So Jordan picked up his first win over at the Red River Valley Speedway here just a few weeks back in the modified and over there. And currently right now with Jordan is leading points at both Fargo and Jamestown.
Oh,
so he's ahead in both of those areas as well on how well he is performing here within the 2023 season. So Jordan has had a really strong start to his year so far, and Colin has had a really strong start to his year as well. And those 2 drivers have looked very, very good here to start the 2023 season. Mod Tour. We need Becca back for Mod Tour.
Oh yeah, hold on. This week's mod Dakota Classic Modified Tour update is brought to you by Reba, online Reba, and she is not happy. So, if you're looking for Dakota Classic Modified Tour driver entries, you can go to the Dakota Classic Modified Tour and read off all the things like I'm going to do for you guys because I am a man of the people. Apparently, typing like this is not a good idea for the people.
No.
Oh, good Lord.
Let's see. It sounds like Ricky Thornton's going to be on tour this year for a couple nights as he's getting a ride as Joey Galloway from Estevan has called me and has a 2022 Rage all ready to let him use. So it should be really good equipment, and it'll be up in Minot, the July 9th race. So it should be interesting. That'd be a fun one. Hold on, let me actually read who all is here because it's like he's saying that he's in, but he's not fully confirmed. Well, Jeff Taylor is in, and Travis Hagan has also entered, so that's nice. We kind of figured Travis would be back on tour, and Jeff.
Yep.
Oh, Mr. Kitty's back for water again. I'm sorry, Mr. Kitty. That's all I got.
Way to go, Justin. Way to hydrate your animal.
Well, here, Mr. Kitty. Here, it's from my Hoosier cup. Come on. Come on. Don't be like this. All right, fine. If you're gonna be like that, we're gonna move on to the next one. Let's see.
Number 11 sounds like he might be on tour for a little bit.
Yes. I wonder if it is the one with probably the greatest feat in mod tour history that just happened last year. So TBJ may be on his way in, but it was just the number 11. So that could be a number of people. It could be the yellow.
It could be Keller. It could
Pfeiffer.
be Pfeiffer. Yep.
Yeah.
It could be a lot of people.
It could definitely be fun seeing here. Let's see. He's mentioned that there's going to be a handful of Wisconsin drivers coming. That'd be kind of cool to get the Mullins back or Benji Lacrosse. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
We have a bunch of good stock car racers out in Wisconsin too, so it'd be nice to see a few of them come over too.
Yep, that'd be good. Let's see who else has came over here. Will Dittmer is going on tour, so that's kind of neat. North Dakota guy, 53D. Let's see, Gabe Deschamps.
Sounds like Kelsey Foley is coming back on tour as well.
So she'll probably bring old Tanner with him.
Yep.
That'd be good. That'd be a nice pickup. Jake McBurney's back. It looks. I like Jake McBurney. He races clean, and his car looks really cool this year.
Yep, I agree with that. Yeah, he's a fun guy to watch.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's what we know as of now. Sounds like Trent Greger's back, so that's cool.
Yeah, he must be saving all his racing for the tour because he has raced very little in the summer.
When you're a tour champion, you don't have to race that much. You just turn the key on and you flex.
That's right. I mean, well, John, which year was it that Steve Arpin, obviously he had won all those races, but he came back and raced the 00. And I think that was one of his first races on dirt that year.
Yeah, I think it was it 2 years after he did it? Because
I think it was 2009 or something.
Year after. I think it might have been 2 years after.
Yeah, because he was fast out of the gate. Because I think that was one of the Big Eagles cars that he was racing or something like that.
Yeah,
he jumped into that and was lights out fast. And so, yeah, you don't necessarily need to race all summer to be competitive on the tour necessarily. And so,
now that's a name I haven't heard for a long time.
Yeah, the last I heard, he was racing rally cars. I think he was doing a little bit of asphalt stuff. But
no, I'm not talking about Arpin, but I'm talking Eagle. Big Eagle.
Oh, Big Eagles, yeah.
It's been a while. Last time I think I saw them was on tour.
Yeah, it has
Williston. Good times.
Seems like all the all the good, fun stuff happens in Williston, which hopefully, if all goes well, we might go live for our Track Packers podcast from Williston with, I mean, I probably won't be there. John will probably be at home too, but I know Becca and Jessup are planning to be on the entire tour. So we're hopefully going to do a live show from Williston, because that seems to be like the hot spot and works out well in the week for us too.
Well, it's a nice midway point, and I mean, we could do a quick walkabout each night for a live portion on the old TPP Facebook page and have some fun with that, and we'll see what happens. We got to try to keep it somewhat tame.
Yeah.
I know the pits can get a little rowdy after dark and after the night, but
and especially if
we'll
there's action on the track that kind of assists with the rowdiness.
I think if last year we had a good live report, Becca was sitting in the dirt at one point. I was in the back of the trailer, and we had good people, and we'll see if we can get some, traveling drivers on this year.
Yeah, I think it would be cool to have drivers on the podcast. I think that would really spice up the show even more. Which, speaking of spicing up the show, we are going to go into our white flag even without Becca in attendance, and thank Mr. Hot Sauce himself, Isaac Sandro, who had a really good weekend of racing. He raced over at Williston, got a top 3 finish, was racing for the win there, and ended up with top 5 over at Nodak Speedway. And so if you're in the pits, especially this upcoming tour week coming up, they have a lot of great snacks to try out. He might have his hot sauce available. They're some of the kindest people to talk to, the Sandros and his pit crew. And so thank you so much, Isaac, for supporting us on the podcast with Hot Sauce Enterprises.
Now, I got a hot take for you tonight. This took me a little bit because I was updating Dakota Dirt's, the winners pages, just for this week's winners.
Mm-hmm.
If you go and take a look at Williston's both nights winners, it was all the same except for one driver, one class.
Sport mods.
Yeah. So I thought, like, I had to go back and double check multiple times just to make sure I wasn't losing my mind or misclicking, but it was definitely an interesting weekend up there, because you had Hagan winning the mods both nights, Dalton Flory winning the stock cars both nights, then Kyler Satrin won hobby stocks both nights, and then slingshots were won by Brogan Wagner both nights. And then Nathan Speeden and Tyler Conlon ended up taking both the IMCA sport mod. So it was really something you don't see too often.
That is a good point. Yeah, because and even like in the stock cars and mods, because I think Friday was the all-star qualifier for the stock cars, and I think Saturday was the qualifier for the mods. And so it wasn't necessarily, I believe, like the traditional like point average start for either of those classes, I don't believe.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I wasn't watching that closely this weekend. I had some other stuff that I was focusing in on.
Yeah, but yeah, that definitely is interesting to think about, because yeah, double headers, usually that doesn't happen for sure. So wins of the week. Who wants to start with wins of the week? I can start this week.
You want to go first? Fine. No, I was just gonna name those poor guys for winning the majority of the weekend. Congratulations.
Nice segue.
Congratulations to 1 Travis Hagan, 1 Dalton Flory, 1 Kyler Citrand, and 1 Brogan Wagner for your weekend sweeps at the Williston Basin Speedway.
Solid set of wins, especially with not much racing around. Definitely big winners on the weekend too. I can go next. So one of my wins of the week was going to be Travis Hagan. He went 3 for 3 on the weekend. Obviously, Jess mentioned the doubleheader in Williston, rocketed to the front at Nodak, and so nice solid week for Travis leading up into tour week coming up. I believe he's going to might be taking the entire next weekend off from the sounds of it, when he was talking to Victory Lane, kind of spending some relaxing time at the lake and getting all rested up and ready for the tour. And I think it's a perfect time to kind of take a little break with everything kind of working the way he wants it to. And so Second win of the week, going to go to a pair of travelers, specifically in the street stocks. I'm going to give a shout out to Braden Brower and Tucker Peterson, which both of them are running for national points. It's been fun to see both of them travel to different places, especially, Tucker traveling down to Madison. He's been racing down to Casino and venturing over to Fergus Falls, and Braden Brower's pretty much gone everywhere. Like, he was just up in River Cities this last weekend. And it's interesting too, because when they're traveling to these tracks they have never been to before, like Braden's been over to Jamestown, like if they get in the invert, they're not starting in the front. So it's like they start like fourth or fifth row and have to make their way to the front and try to get as solid a finish as they can for national points. And so it's been fun to see them travel and see them put on some good miles and be very competitive wherever they go. And that's been fun to watch. And my last win goes to the Slingshots over in Williston. I think they had like 19 one of the nights over in Williston. Like, that is very impressive car count for Slingshots. And that's a very encouraging sign for the future of racing, having that many youngsters getting involved in racing at such a young age and being able to make some laps around the big track. And so I want to give a shout out to all the Slingshot drivers and Wilson Basin Speedway for having that strong car count this weekend. John, who are your winners of the week?
Okay, so my winners of the week, I've got a couple here that I kind of want to list off. So my first one, I'm going to go west, and I'm going to give it to Jeremy Castro. And the reason why I'm giving it to Jeremy is because he won down in Sheridan on Sunday after basically having to redo the right side of the car on Saturday night into Sunday morning. So both him and also Troy Seapack Jr., Troy really wrecked his car over at Electric City on Saturday night, was up for hours replacing and repairing parts and even putting on an old door panel essentially on the right side that had a 5 on it, not even his number, and he ended up second down at Sheridan. So great work to those guys over there for basically getting their cars repaired and getting them back into show form and being competitive again the next night. So good job for those guys. And then the other one of the week that I have to give over to is I have to give it to Tyler Peterson, just because Tyler had such a good weekend again in the late model. I mean, he's a rookie in the late model division. He definitely does not drive like a rookie in the late model division. And like Mason mentioned earlier, I think it's going to be kind of fun to watch. No, maybe not. It's going to be a healthy rivalry between him and Dustin Strand, because both those two drivers can put on a show up front. And I'm looking forward to seeing those two battle it out here in the 2023 season and years to come forward. So I think it'll be a fun little battle as we get into the later part of the WISSOTA season, and then also into invitational season to watch those two battle at some of the big specials. So, but congratulations to Tyler on a very nice week here as we battled all that weather.
Absolutely, another couple great set of wins. Jessup, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I'll add a pretty easy one for us. I will give it to David Gravel on his big one down at Huset's.
Okay. Yes.
250,000.
Yep, that's a lot of money going to one individual's racing team, and kind of a different format down there. I truly didn't understand how it all worked out, but I think it was based off of each night's of points that you earned each night, and it was interesting. Something different. Good for them to try something different, because we're always complaining that if you don't change it up every now and then, it becomes stale and then you lose fans. So yeah, it's pretty neat.
Yeah, I would agree, Jessup. I think it was really neat how they had the 3 preliminary nights. They took the points totals from those nights, kind of like Knoxville does for the Nationals, except it was over 3 nights and they took top 2 nights as part of your total. And then wherever you finished in those points, like Knoxville, lined you up for what you had for the preliminary. Then the final night, we're going into the final night of the racing event, which then you still went through heat races, consies, and all that to determine, basically the racing order and everything else. And honestly, what a good show down at Huset's overall. The races were fun to watch. The show itself was fun to watch from a replay perspective. I don't know how anybody could call it boring or not entertaining, considering that you have the greatest cars in the world on the track down there. So I would say overall, good job to Huset's on 4 great nights of racing action, and really good show overall. And congratulations to David Gravel.
And a jam-packed grandstands.
yes, they were completely sold out on that grandstand, which was awesome to see. Which there is several tracks that would have really liked to be in that same boat. And that just shows you that with having a strong community behind you, having a strong fan base behind you, having the treatment that is really well at the racetrack can lead you to having really good grandstand attendance as well.
Absolutely. Becca, even though she got towed into the pits when it was unable to continue, did have some wins of the week, including, we shouted out Travis Hagen winning 3 in a row. Darren Schatz picking up his first Nodak win. That actually surprised me. I thought he had won before, but he has not. So big congrats out to Darren Schatz. And then she also gave a win of the week for the Legends returning to Nodak Speedway. And so thank you, Becca, for contributing to wins of the week, even though we wish you were out on the track with us. And the last little tidbit I want to say before we sign off, I heard this, I believe, on the Nodak broadcast, or on Wilson's broadcast, but I was just checking over IMCA national points. Did you know we have 2 IMCA hobby stock drivers in the top 20 right now? We have Kyler Sachin running in 11th and Brenner Gridstead running in a tie for 18th. So shout out to those 2 drivers on being top 20 right now in IMCA national points. Hope you guys stay there or even move up even higher in the standings. I think Kyler's probably going to move up here throughout the season, and Brenner's been right on his heels every race they go to, and they've been putting a lot of shows together. And so hope you guys continue to have success for the rest of the season. So that'll do it for episode 18 with a little bit of carnage in the midst, but we want to thank you so much for watching and or listening. Be sure to like, share, and comment if you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube. If you're on Apple, leave us a 5-star review. And thank you to the listeners on Spotify and Google as well. Thank you to our sponsors, Hitch Harness and Isaac Hot Sauce Sandro. Hope everyone has a happy 4th of July weekend, and we all see you out there packing the track.